Welcome to this rapid revision video looking at the Whitechapel unit. This is the first of two videos looking at the Jack the Ripper murders. This will be the shorter of the two, looking at the murders themselves and also the initial problems facing the police. In 1888, 5 women were murdered in Whitechapel. Mary Ann Nichols was found in Bucks Row on the 31st of August. Annie Chapman was found in the backyard of number 29 Hanbury Street, Spitalfields. Elizabeth Stride was found in Berners Street on the 30th of September. On the same night, Catherine Eddowes was found in Mitre Square, Aldgate, only 45 minutes after Elizabeth Stride had been discovered. Mary Jane Kelly was found inside number 13 Miller's Court, Dorset Street, Spitalfields on the 9th of November. These women are the so-called canonical 5, most associated with the Jack the Ripper case. But violence and murders of women in Whitechapel were sadly not rare. The police believe that all 5 women were the victims of the same murderer. The murderer has never been identified, but has been given the popular name Jack the Ripper. While unsuccessful, the methods used by the police provide examples of the challenges of detective work in the late 19th century. The Whitechapel murders were especially gruesome. You are not required to know all of the grisly details, and I will not recount them all here. There are plenty of other podcasts and videos that will do that, but of course this is a presentation aimed at GCSE age pupils. The depth of knowledge that you require of these murders is not at all detailed, nor is the required knowledge of the lives of the victims. However, I will take a moment to remind you that these women all lived difficult lives in a deprived area. They were poor. They were vulnerable, and they all deserved better from life. They lived at a time when there were very few opportunities for them to thrive. We should remember them for the human beings that they were. There were various details that led the police to link the 5 canonical victims. Each had been killed at night, on or near a weekend, at the end of the month or within a week after. All were killed in or near Whitechapel. All worked as sex workers to survive in the harsh economic realities of Whitechapel. Each had been killed by a knife wound to the neck. Mutilations of the bodies became increasingly severe as the murders continued, with the exception of Elizabeth Stride. Some suggested that the murderer may have been interrupted. Stride was found less than an hour before the mutilated body of Eddowes was found. The first problem faced by the police was the media. The Criminal Investigation Department placed Inspector Frederick Aberline and his team on the case to assist the Uniform 8 Division in tracking down the murderer. The press publicised the killings. Sensationalised reporting led to big sales, but also the scapegoating or blaming of immigrant communities and massive public interest in the case at the expense of the truth. Almost immediately, CID received, either directly or via the newspapers, over 300 letters and postcards from people claiming to be the killer. One letter, and it wasn't the only one that was of significance, dated the 25th of September 1888 and known as the Dear Boss letter, was thought to be plausible enough to be reproduced on posters, as it was believed that it contained details that perhaps only the killer would know. But the police remained no nearer finding the killer. You can see the original in the top right, but this is the text reproduced, so it's easier to read, and it's not very pleasant reading. Dear Boss, I keep on hearing the police have caught me, but they won't fix me just yet. I have laughed when they look so clever and talk about being on the right track. That joke about Leather Apron gave me real fits. I'm down on whores and I shan't quit ripping them till I do get buckled. Grand work the last job was. I gave the lady no time to squeal. How can they catch me now? I love my work and I want to start again. You will soon hear of me with my funny little games. I saved some of the proper red stuff in a ginger beer bottle over the last job to write with, but it went thick like glue and I can't use it. Red ink is fit enough, I hope? Ha ha! The next job I do I shall clip the lady's ears off and send to the police officers just for jolly, wouldn't you? Keep this letter back till I do a bit more work, then give it out straight. My knife's so nice and sharp I want to get to work right away if I get the chance. Good luck. Yours truly, Jack the Ripper. Don't mind me giving the trade name. Now there are certain details in here that are really suspicious. The mention of leather apron refers to an accusation which started in the press that a Jewish immigrant who was nicknamed Leather Apron, actually a shoemaker called John Pizer, was actually responsible for the murders. He had a very solid alibi, and it certainly wasn't him. But it's interesting that this letter reveals that. So what other problems did the police have to face? The second problem that held back police was police rivalry. The different divisions of the Metropolitan Police sometimes competed to solve cases and enhance their reputation. Rivalry with the separate City of London Police, which controlled itself, was even more fierce. This sometimes meant that evidence was obscured, discarded, or simply not shared, hampering investigations. One potential lead that was lost related to a piece of evidence related to the gruesome murder and mutilation of Catherine Eddowes. She was found in Mitre Square, Aldgate, on the same night that Elizabeth Stride was found. But a blood and excrement smeared piece of her apron was found on Gulson Street, half a mile away. Scrawled on the wall in a nearby alleyway was a piece of graffiti. "The Jews are not other men that will not be blamed for nothing." Anti-Semitism was common in Whitechapel, but before any link to the murders could be established, the evidence was destroyed by the Commissioner Charles Warren himself. Why? Warren claimed that it was to avoid a backlash against the Jewish community in Spitalfields and Whitechapel. In a previous video, I've covered the very serious tensions between communities in Whitechapel, and so there is some plausibility to this. Alternatively, he may have done this as Eddowes was found in Aldgate, just within the jurisdiction of the City of London Police and not the Met. It is possible that he wanted to avoid them getting involved in the case and potentially beating the Met to the capture of Jack the Ripper. Much of the evidence that was gathered, unfortunately for historians, was lost forever. It was destroyed in the Second World War blitz on London. Our final points in this first part about the Jack the Ripper murders. Between August and November 1888, there was a series of gruesome murders in and near Whitechapel. They were of Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly. The murders of the 5 women were linked by police to the same killer, known by the name Jack the Ripper. Media attention to the case hampered police efforts to unmask the killer, prompting hundreds of time-wasting hoax letters, obscuring some that may or may not have been genuine clues. Rivalry between H Division and the City of London Police led to a lack of cooperation and evidence sharing. It is possible that Met Commissioner Warren destroyed evidence to prevent City of London Police involvement. Jack the Ripper was never found or identified. Murders and violence against women continued, but links to the 5 canonical murders were not made. The real Jack the Ripper either stopped killing, moved away, was imprisoned or institutionalized, or died. We will probably never know. That's the end of this first video on the Jack the Ripper murders. The next one's going to be quite a bit longer, but I hope that this has served a good introduction. If it has been useful and interesting to you, please do like the video and consider subscribing to the channel. For now, thanks very much for watching, and goodbye.